But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
It's a new year.
2016.
And here we are, the Other Things podcast. First one of the new year. I know it's been late.
We've been busy.
It's been just a crazy beginning to the new year.
Yeah, we've been busy over at Open Box. That's
Open
for sure.
Box is just going nuts with business. So, I mean, that's a good thing. Sorry to you guys who, you know, the listener.
That's okay. Bob and Brian are on
our one
vacation
listener.
for like a week, so.
What's that?
Bob and Brian, my part of Open Box, was on vacation for like a week, so I
That's
had it a
true.
little easy.
So you had a nice little vacation.
Little
I had another vacation too
right.
over the Christmas season. Our last podcast, we were joined with Matthew.
Yes.
My brother-in-law.
Right? Yeah.
We talked about The Force Awakens, everything about The Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, we actually are talking about already episode 8 in today's podcast. But before we get to that, Brock, why don't you start with this lead?
Yeah, well, the NFL playoffs have been going on, and as a Packer fan, didn't feel super great going into the playoffs.
Not particularly. As you were mentioning, Bob and Brian, did you happen to listen to them last Monday?
Last Monday?
Yeah, to the Zabin segment.
Oh, yes. Them and their sports guy, Steve Zabin, were going back and forth about because they're playing the Redskins.
They're playing the Redskins, and that's Zabin's team.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
So there was kind of a little bit of, playful animosity there. But in a comeback that I didn't really expect at all, the Packers played amazing. Our defense held it together like I haven't seen in a long time, and I wish that the team that played the Redskins had been around for the rest of the season because apparently we just do really well in playoff games. Because this has happened to the Packers before where they haven't had a very good regular season, but then stepping into the playoffs, all of a sudden they just turn on something, or maybe the pressure helps them. But, yeah, they really knocked it out of the park. And then other wild cards that weekend, too, scored real big.
This has been a big week for really a big year for the wild card teams. All of the division winners
do we play the
for the first
Cardinals
round has been knocked out. That is correct. The Packers play the Cardinals next week. Now, we played them 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Lost.
Yes.
38-8.
Right.
We don't like to talk about it, but this is a very different Packers team. And
true.
I had many pending comments throughout the whole game, you know, where the Packers looked like they were going to be good, and then the season taught me to be quiet, wait, and I was able to say a lot of my comments. I was actually watching with a buddy, and many times throughout the game, I would sit there and say, pending comment.
Yeah.
It's like, pending, well, okay, I'll wait. And I was able to say the comment, and I'm like, it was things like if the Packers score again, we're in a really good position.
Right.
It looks like
you
our
didn't want
offense,
to be optimistic, but
it looks like our offense woke up.
Right.
Things like that where, I don't know, it could be very scary. And there are a lot of parallels between this team right now and the one from 2010 that, won the Super Bowl.
And another big NFL winner this weekend, somehow by the grace of some divine power, the Seahawks won. That opposing kicker that missed, that was like the shortest.
His name is Blair Walsh.
Yeah, it's the shortest missed field goal of all time in a playoffs game.
Definitely in the playoffs. I know it was the shortest game-winning field goal attempt in the playoffs.
Zabin said like the other
throws it way left.
The next shortest one was like 38 yards. So, but like this one was just, I don't even know how they missed that. But the Seahawks are just lucky, I think.
How about this? Are you on the Blair Walsh blame train?
Like that?
Is it completely? Is it all Blair Walsh's fault for missing the field goal?
I think that he did miss it, but it wasn't like on purpose. It definitely was just because
No, I
there's
don't think he
massive
went out on
pressure.
the field
Well, there have
saying,
been a lot of
I think I'm going to miss this one.
There are a lot of-
I made the previous 3. I don't need another one.
there are a lot of people who were like, oh, they paid him off, blah, 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 to throw the game, that kind of thing. Don't think that's what happened. I honestly think he just cracked under the pressure. That happens. And, like, if you play a position like kicker in the NFL, you have to know that you have to deal with that kind of pressure. Other positions like that are quarterback or, even wide receiver. You have to make that catch at the end of the game or make that catch for the extra 2 points or, So I think that pressure is pretty universal, but he just succumbed to it, I guess. And,
He did.
And I think that it'll probably throw him off for next year. I think he'll probably, still be in a funk, depending on what kind of a guy he is, of course.
It is very hard for kickers to regain their
Right.
confidence after missing a huge
And of
a
course,
huge one like that. Mason Crosby went through that a few
Yes.
years ago
I
from the
do remember
Packers,
that.
the kicker for the Packers, but he was able to overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
He was constantly put into situations where, look, if you don't make this,
right.
if you don't make this, we lose, and that's a big deal. But he was able to overcome that, gain his confidence back.
True.
And even in the postseason this year, they gave him, what was it, a 65-yard attempt, which
Right.
was right down the middle, but just a little bit short. I think it hit
That's a
the. I
massive
think it hit
field
the
goal.
cross. The
It did
lower
hit.
cross.
I think it hit
beam,
the lower beam.
which
You're right.
which is incredible. But my take on that is Blair Walsh scored the previous 9 points.
Right. So it's like
There are many more people on the
Mhm.
Vikings offense and defense who can score points.
And it
Besides
isn't-
Blair Walsh, he got them to
Yeah.
the point of maybe being able to win this game.
and it isn't
Where
just
were the
like
where were the rest of the Minnesota Vikings?
about those missed points that he missed out on. It's also about the rest of his team letting it affect them mentally.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it just takes down morale and puts you in a bad place mentally. And if you let that happen to you and you let yourself get psyched out like that,
Right.
just because you missed one field goal instead of just being like, all right, guys, let's just keep playing. We
Right.
still got this. That can definitely affect you. So I do think that had something to do with it. But overall, crazy weekend for the NFL.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to seeing the rest of the playoffs. Like you said, Cardinals on Saturday for the Packers. Definitely will be cheering for that game. Hopefully
Mhm.
the Packers that showed up last weekend will show up this weekend too.
I'm really hoping, and just another review, I really like where Kansas City is right now.
Yeah?
Absolutely. They were able to just route
That's true.
not the Colts. Houston.
Correct.
They were able to just route Houston. It was 30-0.
That's pretty good.
Houston didn't even show up, and they were playing at home. Now,
Yeah.
I'm really liking the storyline that's appearing. Definitely with the wild card teams, it would be great if the wild card teams each win again, so that it's only wild card teams in the respective
interesting.
championships. That would be just a great storyline. I would love it, and it would validate the
Anything that makes for interesting games of football, I'm down for. And that would.
absolutely,
And that would.
and with the storyline too.
Yeah.
It would be validating for not only the Packers but the Steelers, all the other teams except
True.
for really the Seahawks.
Also true.
Seahawks are the only team where it's not really validating, but hey,
Right.
but that would mean they would have to come back to Lambeau Field,
True.
which would be another great storyline
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the Packers
Don't-
had. Anyway, we should move on because
Like home
sports
games.
sports isn't our main suit. I
Are we
kind of
moving
snuck
on
that.
to tech now?
Yeah, I snuck that into all things entertainment. But yes, we're moving on to tech. Now, when we're talking about tech, initially, I never would have thought to be talking about Chrysler. Personally, I don't really like Chrysler vehicles.
I don't think that me or any of my family members have ever owned a Chrysler vehicle. Have you?
My family has.
Okay.
I
Was
grew up.
Was it the minivan series?
I grew up with the Plymouth
Okay.
version, which is
Yeah,
still by
yeah.
Chrysler. It was kind of like not their main one. Obviously, Chrysler's
Right.
their main one, but it was kind of the offshoot of that. They had Dodge, they had Plymouth, all the other
Right.
ones. I learned to drive in a 1999 Plymouth Grand Voyager,
Okay.
which is kind of the ancestor of this vehicle. Now,
Right.
Chrysler is reviving the Pacifica, and
Which
they're
is a
illuminating.
Minivan.
It was
quote.
a like minivan SUV crossover.
Right.
It wasn't quite a minivan, but it wasn't quite an SUV either. but they're reviving the Pacifica as just a minivan.
And a hybrid.
We'll get to that. Interestingly enough, they're getting rid of the Town and Country.
Okay.
And Dodge is eliminating the
which
Grand
has been a
Caravan.
very popular series for them. And also, I think the Waukesha Police purchased 3 of those for undercovers just recently.
That's like the ultimate shame. You're
Right?
getting pulled over by a minivan.
If you see
Come
like
on,
a really,
buddy.
really new looking, very clean minivan in Waukesha, don't speed around that. just so you know.
I like that. But see, that would be the thing. If I was a police dude, a police officer, I'd be like, so can I get like a Camry?
Right. And that's and with the new law in Wisconsin, you don't even have to have law enforcement plates on your vehicles. So
oh no,
they can
that's
really do pretty much anything for undercovers.
That's interesting.
So I think that's why that they kind of went the minivan route, because
nobody's going to expect to get
Exactly.
pulled over by a minivan.
I would really like
until
this
it happens.
minivan though. The Pacifica.
Yes, this Pacifica
When
is...
you were showing me the features, I was like, what?
I saw this and I'm like, they're reviving the Pacifica. What's going on here? But I'm actually really on board for this vehicle. And watch out, Toyota. Watch out, Honda, because this van is... It's got technology everywhere. They're marketing it as just another hybrid, featuring 80 miles a gallon.
And when we were talking about this before, the reason that they can say that is because
they're marketing it as a hybrid, but
Right.
it's really a plug-in hybrid.
Correct.
So this van for 30 miles is completely an electric vehicle.
Which is like similar to how the Priuses run. If they're under 25, they run on only electricity.
Yes.
But as soon as you go past that 25 mile an hour
Yes.
limit, it engages and you start actually using your thing. But for this, no matter what speed you're going, for the first 30 miles, you use only electricity power, and then after that, you start using your gas, which makes the range of how far you can
Absolutely.
drive huge. And like you were saying before, if you're a commuter or stay-at-home mom, or you
Absolutely.
have kids in school,
The average minivan driver
that
only
30-mile
goes 30
radius.
miles a day, maybe 35. So you're using 5 miles of your gas, and it's still a hybrid after it expires that 30
or even
miles.
if you're, like a contractor, a guy who's out, working in the community all day, you could have one of these vans outfitted with all your tools and have a range of 30 miles that you could go easily without wasting any gas.
Yeah, that could be a new premium for contractors as well. If they get this van, I'm sure they're going to... Hey, Chrysler, you could pay me for this one. They could make a commercial series of vans like this that go 30 miles. I don't think they're going to be listening to this, but if they are... I just waved at them.
The first 30 miles, though?
But the first 30 miles, that could be a premium for contractors, plumbers, electricians, where essentially within a 15-mile radius, because remember, you got to get back.
It doesn't cost anything.
It doesn't cost anything.
The thing that needs to be noted here is that those first 30 miles aren't just free.
They're not free. They are electric.
You do have to pay for the electricity to fill it. And you also have to get retrofitted your garage with one of these charging ports.
240-volt
Correct.
outlet, which is not terribly uncommon. You can find
It's
just
the same
just go
as
to
any
Menards.
existing electric
You can
car.
go to Home Depot and find one, plug it in just fine. But typically your home is not going to have 240-volt outlets.
Correct.
But with the
it's a new home.
240-volt charger, it charges within 2 hours.
That's pretty fast.
2 hours.
I remember when my
For
cell
30
phone
miles.
used to take longer than 2 hours to charge fully.
Absolutely. So this van is just loaded with technology. It's still got the stow and go seating. I don't know how they did that why they put the batteries in the floorboard, but they still have the stow and go seating. So I don't quite know how that all fits together.
Right.
I'm really excited to see where this van takes them. And like I said before, watch out Toyota, watch out Honda, because Chrysler's back with a minivan, and they're kind of
excited
kicking
to
it
see
right now.
hybrids becoming more of a thing.
Absolutely.
Progressively, and with more hybrids out there, it means more competition between the hybrid companies, and
For
we'll
sure.
eventually get better cars for the consumers. So
Yeah,
that's really what it's all about.
All right, coming up next, we have a little tribute to David Bowie.
Alrighty, guys. The Other Things podcast is produced at Open Box Strategies in Brookfield, Wisconsin. Open Box Strategies is a website design, video production, and online marketing firm that delivers fixed-fee, value-based creative projects and never for an hourly fee. Jumpstart your marketing today. Call 262-825-6993 or visit openboxstrategies.com. All right, guys, moving on to entertainment. We have had a little bit of sad news in the past couple days.
Yes, we have.
David Bowie, prolific musician, has died at the age of 69. He has been in a couple-year battle with cancer and has passed away. I've been a big fan of David Bowie. David Bowie's kind of changed the face for music for a lot of people. There's lots of tributes that have been done by a lot of musical celebrities and also just, pop celebrities in general about how David Bowie affected their life and how important he was. So I encourage you to go online and check some of those out if you're interested. But the main thing that I want you to go check out, if you haven't seen it yet, the final piece of, art or music, and it's also a music video, that David Bowie really put out before he died is called Lazarus. Which is very ominous a little bit, but it's a very touching last final message from David Bowie. And if you're a David Bowie fan and you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend that you do. It's a little sad, obviously, considering the situation, but I would still encourage you to go see it. It's very cathartic.
And I understand he recently released an album as well.
Yes, Lazarus was part of that album.
Okay.
So that was kind of his last work that he put out. The cool thing was, though, that this music video and that album released before he died, and he actually got to see feedback from it before he died, and it was positive feedback. So I think that, that's something good that can come out of this, is at least he got to share that piece of himself with the world one last time, and people really received it well, and he got to see that people liked it too, so which I'm sure was very important to him.
Absolutely, and I remember, it wasn't that long ago. It's like, I remember back in the day when Robin Williams passed away, and one of his last films was The Third Night at the Museum.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Where
Teddy
he
Roosevelt
had that nice speech about going away and how he's, other things, and people are watching this and going,
yeah.
Huh?
I've also always been a huge Johnny Cash fan, and the last album that Johnny Cash put out and the last music video he put out is called Hurt. It's actually a remake of a Nine Inch Nails song, but that music video being the last one he did, same kind of feeling I got when I watched Lazarus. It's, really an artist getting a chance to say goodbye, and, people were always like, oh, we knew this was going to happen, that kind of stuff. He was a cancer patient who'd had cancer for more than a year. He kind of...
Right.
He was feeling those, that depression and those feelings already. So I feel like that's what he kind of channeled to make this music and this music video as well. So either way, if you haven't checked it out, go check it on YouTube right now. And I think that you will not be dissatisfied. All right.
Good. Now,
more tech?
Yes. If we haven't mentioned it before, this podcast is very entertainment and tech heavy, just because that's what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm. 2016, new year. Lots of people like to release new stuff.
And really towards the end of last year, we had a lot of releases of movies, films. We had The Revenant recently come out.
The Revenant, yes.
Revenant.
Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hardy.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But now we're going back to tech. GM and Lyft. Well, it's really just GM.
LYFT for those of you guys.
LY, yes. So the rideshare company and biggest national automaker,
right,
GM,
General Motors,
made a deal with Lyft to start developing an autonomous car. Now, we've been talking a lot about autonomous cars in the podcast.
Google car.
Right. And really, last time we were talking about Ford just kind of skipping a phase and going right into full autonomy.
Right.
Now, this seems to be the next phase of vehicles that are coming around.
Right.
But it's interesting that they're making this deal with Lyft
instead of Uber.
Not necessarily instead of Uber, but it's just that I was more thinking in terms of trucking and trains.
Okay.
And
you'd think that's where the frontier would be for autonomous vehicles, because then you could have, all of your shipping totally automatic.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't have to worry about your truck driver falling asleep at the wheel. You wouldn't have to worry about fatigue from your truck driver,
Absolutely.
delivery drivers. All you would have to do is flip a switch and literally watch the GPS locator come to you.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
that would be super awesome, and I'm sure it would cut down on shipping costs too, because you wouldn't have to pay that trucker then to drive. You could just then be basically paying for the gas.
And I've seen that Mercedes-Benz made I want to call it a lorry. I've been watching too much Top Gear recently. Which they have new episodes on Netflix, which is incredible, and I love that show. But they have Mercedes-Benz made a semi that is partially autonomous. It still requires a driver, but the driver can completely disengage.
Right, it's got like an autopilot function.
Yeah, and then if it reads something where it doesn't know what's ahead, it'll alert the driver. And he has essentially like 2 minutes to take back over. And that's kind of alarming, but
right. And it's still a new technology, so there's always it is kind of nerve-wracking to let go of a wheel and just walk away from it. I'm sure that'll freak anybody out.
Absolutely. But
the potential there for that technology is huge.
There's always a problem with new technology that comes out is you always have the newest technology, but you also have to contend with the oldest technology. Is that you're still going to have those people out there driving their 85 Toyota Corollas that had absolutely no onboard computer. It might have power steering, I don't know if it still works, and they're just driving just beater cars out there. How are you going to account for those cars?
If every car was autonomous, it would be very easy to make it safe.
It would.
But since every car won't be autonomous for a very long time, it's going to be hard.
You would have to retrofit every car with some sort of tracking device, sort of,
or make two
basically
separate roads. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a road just for autonomous vehicles. But then there's a whole other infrastructure cost that's associated with that.
Absolutely. But back to this GM Lyft deal, it looks like it's going to be a great idea for the city centers. So like the big cities, downtown New York, Los Angeles, and all the other ones where rideshare people don't have a car themselves, they can bloop, 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 order a car. It drives up to them. No driver in the car. They type in their coordinates or whatever, and they go off somewhere else, and then the car leaves, goes to pick someone else. It's essentially a cab, but without a driver and just with your smartphone. Don't have to worry about tipping anyone. It's it's done. Moving on.
Right.
And we are moving on. So what's coming up next?
We are going to be talking about Star Wars Episode 8.
Yes, we are. The Other Things podcast is produced at Open Box Strategies in Brookfield, Wisconsin. Open Box Strategies is a website, design, video production, and online marketing firm that delivers fixed-fee, value-based creative products and never for an hourly fee. Jumpstart your marketing today. Call 262-825-6993 or visit openboxstrategies.com. We're going to be talking about Star Wars Episode 8.
Yes, we are.
So, Episode 7 just came out. We have a release date, May 17th, 2017.
Which is
so we don't even have to
away.
wait a full 2 years.
Almost.
That's exciting for me.
Yeah.
I mean, we're coming up on May already. It's like the end of January, right? No, not even close, but still, it feels like the end of January.
What we're talking about today is an interview with John Boyega, who of course plays Finn, and talking about his role in Episode 8, and he says it will be a much darker film, which, since this one kind of followed the tradition of Episode 4, if they follow the tradition of Episode 5, which is The Empire Strikes Back, obviously a little bit more darker film.
Yes.
Puts the heroes in a position where they're running away instead of trying to fight, which I think, definitely could hold true. Also, in Episode 8, talking about John Boyega, it has been not 100% confirmed, but Billy D. Williams has said that he will be in Star Wars Episode 8.
What do you think about this?
Finn might be his kid. Finn might be his kid.
That's my initial thought is that
when they're talking about the stormtroopers, they say that they take them from their families before like they're even aware of being, a person, and then train them from a very young age to be a stormtrooper. And that's the program that Finn was in. It's like kind of like special forces for stormtroopers. So if it is, Lando's kid, if Finn is Lando's kid, Lando wouldn't even know.
Lando would know. Finn wouldn't know.
Well, Lando would know that he had a kid that got taken. He wouldn't know necessarily that that's Finn.
Who it is. There wouldn't be really any way to confirm it unless he just goes, I'm your father. But then it would go like, all right, let's get Maury out here. We got to do the paternity test, everything else. But it would be... We haven't seen a paternity test in Star Wars. Not saying that they don't have it. I'm sure they do.
I think they've got to.
It would just be a stretch to say, how can you confirm that this one guy who was a stormtrooper is your son? I don't really see that. And there was no indication previously that Lando. I'm a firm believer, first of all, that Finn is a Force user.
I don't think we're going to agree on that one.
We can talk about that right now.
We're going to agree on that one.
You don't agree.
No.
All right, what are your arguments for Finn is not a Force user?
He doesn't demonstrate any Force sensitivity or Force powers in the entire movie.
Okay.
And I think that the only reason that he knows how to use the lightsaber as well as he does is because he's a soldier.
That's very valid. And he was trained. He was trained with that, electric baton thing.
Yeah. So he gets kind of how to do hand-to-hand combat. So he just kind of replaces it with, the lightsaber. And I think I'm just all right, so if Snoke is in charge of the First Order, and Kylo Ren's associated with the First Order. And they're taking these stormtroopers and basically taking them away from people and then, growing them into stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm.
They probably would have been able to test to see if he was a Force sensitive. And I feel like they would have known.
They're going to pull his blood and see how many midichlorians he has?
Exactly. So, like, if they would have been able to do that, then they would have known right away when he was a baby. So they could have, like, started training him to be a Dark Jedi or whatever that they wanted him to be at that point.
They would make him a Knight of Ren.
Right. And they didn't do that. Which makes me think that he's not Force sensitive.
All right. Then I have a question for you.
Okay.
How did he realize that being a stormtrooper was bad? If not with the Force's help.
I think that he's just a good person, man. And that he has a sense of morals and that when he gets down to the planet and they're like, okay, you're going to be fighting these people, and then he gets out and then they're just slaughtering people, like there's not even really anybody fighting back except for Poe, in that scene. Like, basically everybody's running and they're just killing all these innocent people. So I think that I think in his mind, he was psyched out to be a stormtrooper. Like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to fight, the enemies. But as soon as he realized they weren't even shooting back and this was just a slaughter, he was kind of like, wow, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is wrong. And so then he tries to use Poe to get out. All
right. See, my, I guess, belief that he is a Force user comes from my thinking that Han Solo himself is a Force user.
Okay, so there's difference.
But he just doesn't realize it.
Right, there's a difference between being,
he doesn't
strong in the Force and Force sensitive, because there's lots of people who are Force sensitive. Like, they've even said, in some of the books and stuff for Star Wars, that people who are often really good pilots or super good fighters have slight Force sensitivity. Because
that's like the Jedi reflexes that Qui-Gon
I
was
have a bad
to.
feeling about this feeling. So you walk into a room and all of a sudden you get a tinge on the back of your neck and something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
That could be considered a level of Force sensitivity.
That's what I'm suggesting that Finn has.
Yes. So if you were going to tell me that he's Force sensitive, I would be like, okay, that's legit. I think he might be Force sensitive, but I don't.
Oh no, he's not a Force user. That's what I meant. He's sensitive.
I don't think he'll ever be a Jedi, a true Jedi. I think he's just going to continue being a soldier.
I think he'll be trained. He's too eager not to be.
He could, but
and now he's got a chip on his shoulder to get Kylo Ren back.
I think that he might just want to go help the Resistance with Poe, though, instead of going to train as a Jedi. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that's the whole Luke Skywalker, I can't train right now, I need to go help my friends mentality.
I can see that.
Right. So it could go either way, but I think you're right in saying that he definitely has some kind of Force sensitivity. I don't think that he'll be a Jedi, though. That's
All
my
right.
prediction.
I think I'm just really on the Finn train. I'm just like,
That's
give
okay.
that,
If we
give
can-
that guy a
we can
lightsaber,
disagree.
make him fight with
I'll
it.
just be right later.
That what? Right. And I it's
One of us will be at
in
least.
my heart.
Yeah.
I feel it in my heart.
Well, John Boyega said in this interview that he thinks that he'll have to do some working out.
He says that
for
he's
this
going to have
role.
to go to a gym a lot, and it's going to
Right.
require. He says he's going to have to be more physical.
So that could be that he's going to be Jedi trained, or that could be that he's just going to be doing more soldier stuff.
Who knows? Who knows?
It could
I'm
go either way.
really looking forward to episode 8 already. Also looking forward to Rogue One. Also,
Yes.
the Han Solo movie, which I think
They
is a
have
terrible idea, but I'm just going along
They
with
have
it.
confirmed that one of the spin-off movies will be a Han Solo movie, and they also released a list of people who they think will play. I think it's a list of 8 actors who they think will play young Han. Now, the most recognizable name, at least for me in the list, is Dave Franco.
Yes.
And I don't exactly like James Franco, but Dave Franco is actually a decent actor. I've seen him in some stuff. He's in a lot of comedies. It's kind of hard to judge somebody's, acting ability
Right.
from a comedy. But
It's like Owen Wilson's serious movies where
right.
The dog movie.
I got nothing. Marley
There's-
and Me.
That's the one.
Okay, there we
where
go.
he's playing a serious role with Jennifer Aniston, and I mean, he can do it very well, and
Right.
he has in the past. But I just remember him as the man.
I feel like Dave Franco would either nail the role or completely kill it, because I feel like he's got a lot of the snarkiness of Han Solo. He could
Right.
definitely channel that pretty well, which is like a huge part of the Han character for me. But I think that people are going to be really wanting the Han Solo prequel because of what happened in Episode 7, because they want more Han. So
I've also heard the
I don't know.
other side is that Han Solo had his exit, and that was
And
a
that's
good
it.
exit. Don't touch it.
yeah, I don't think that they should bring him back. That would be a mistake. If Han Solo somehow isn't dead.
Oh no! I'm
you're
talking
just
about,
talking about a
like
spin-off
his
movie?
whole story is done. Why go back?
Why go back and
We
try
already
to-
know how it ends.
Okay.
We don't know how to. We don't need to know where.
Well,
it came from.
the other protagonist or antagonist, depending on how you look at it, that they've talked about for doing another spin-off movie would be Boba Fett, and I think that would probably do better. At least in the terms you're talking about of not going back and messing with the story any more than we already have. So I don't know.
Right. For me,
though, I'm going to say that Dave Franco is my choice right now. For
there was
Han
another
Solo.
guy on the list. Who did I say it was?
Jenner, last name Jenner.
Not
Hold on, let
Jenner.
me-
Nope. I'm not on that train.
So far, I have Miles Teller,
Nope.
Ansel Elgort, Dave
Nope.
Franco,
Nope.
Jack Rayner,
That
Scott.
one. Jack Rayner.
Jack Rayner.
Yep.
Okay,
That's the one
he's
I'm
well
on
known.
board
He's
for
been doing
that
some
one.
good stuff.
I'm on board for Jack Rayner.
The other ones, just if anybody want to know, Scott Eastwood, Logan Learman, and
Scott Eastwood
Emery
would
Cohen.
be interesting too.
That's
But I don't
Clint
know.
Eastwood's
I don't
son,
know
right?
if we. Yes, I don't know if we really
Dude,
want.
He looks so much like Clint Eastwood.
He does.
It's nuts.
He does. I don't know if we really want. I love the space cowboy thing.
Also, here it says in this that Rogue One is going to finish filming in a month.
Cool. That
Very
means we should have a trailer soon.
Yeah, at least one.
Yeah. And we're probably due for a trailer on that one,
Right.
even if it's just a teaser. Moving on because
Run out of time.
we are running out of time.
Don't worry, I'll go through this stuff quickly.
All right. Golden Globes.
Golden Globes.
Let's talk about Leo DiCaprio and
There's
the
really
Revenant.
there's two things I want to talk about. One, Leonardo DiCaprio. If you haven't seen The Revenant yet, go watch it. It's not the kind of movie I would bring my kids to. It's very gritty, very mature. The level of method acting that Leonardo DiCaprio did for this film is insane. He slept for a night inside of a dead horse, like straight Star Wars Tauntaun style, in
Yeah.
order to keep for warmth. He ate raw bear liver for this, actually for the scene in the movie. And really, the general idea of the story is there's a man, he's in the wilderness, he gets attacked by a bear, and a bunch of other crazy stuff happens, and he has to try to get back to civilization by himself, and he's obviously very wounded. He's been mauled by a bear. So, it's kind of like a combination of like a Pulp Fiction level of violence with like Castaway because
it's just him.
Well, it's not just him on the screen. It is just him on the screen for a while, but like he like kind of goes from person to person. He finds people who help him, but he is alone a lot for part of it. So it's kind of like him being on screen by himself for a long time, and you have to be a very good actor in order to pull that off.
Right.
And so I thought his performance was amazing. He won a Golden Globe for that. Kudos on him. Hopefully he wins an Oscar for it because he hasn't got one yet. And the second thing I wanted to talk about is The Martian.
Okay.
Which did win a Golden Globe, but not in the category you'd
for
think.
Best Comedy.
Best Comedy / musical. So it could have been a comedy or a musical.
Now, you and I were talking about this yesterday.
The Martian is neither.
Martian is... It has funny elements to it.
There's definitely some funny parts to it, but it's a drama.
But there's another definition to comedy that is sometimes overlooked, where comedy isn't necessarily just about something funny. It's the storyline doesn't really go anywhere. So, what's his name again?
Who?
I'll just call him Matt Damon. Matt Damon starts somewhere, he goes somewhere, and then he finishes somewhere. In a drama, you're supposed to you start somewhere, and then you go somewhere else.
Plot
so this is more of a traditional version of comedy, where right now we think of a comedy as it's funny,
right?
It makes you laugh, whatever else. But there's another more traditional definition of comedy where the story essentially starts where it ends off. It's also called a farce.
Right. It's kind of like the tragic comedy, kind of like the Shakespeare idea.
Right.
More of like that kind of comedy than what we would typically think of as comedy now.
But I still wouldn't call even The Martian a farce.
Yeah, it's a tough stretch, and a lot of people were, especially in social media, were questioning why you would do that.
But I think they just wanted to recognize The Martian. They wanted to give it recognition.
Right. And I think it deserved
it. But
it's a good movie.
They already fit all these other films into another one, or all the other comedies are just that bad.
That is also possible.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think it's time to end things. And to end things, I want to talk about an amazing movie that has had an amazing marketing team behind it. Deadpool, the movie, is coming out right around 30 days from now. If you're not familiar with Deadpool, it's a very serious, mature, graphic type of comic book where there's lots of violence, there's lots of adult humor. And today they released a ad for Deadpool in a Nicholas Sparks Valentine's Day-esque. They actually have a billboard that makes Deadpool look like a romantic comedy or a romantic movie, and it's not at all. So I think that's just, it's like second level marketing. It's like, one, kind of trying to trick people into going to see it, but two, it's like for the really dedicated fans who know that it's not that. It's an even deeper joke. I think it's brilliant. And the rest of the marketing that they've done for this movie has been on point too.
Yeah, before this they had the 12 Days of Deadpool, which was
during Christmas.
Surrounding the Christmas season. They've done a lot with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
And it's surprising that they're going with him because of the failed Green Lantern
He's going to do
which
much
we just
better
won't
in this role.
mention, but I think they're giving Ryan Reynolds a lot of play. Their marketing team is not leaving. They're not leaving any idea on the table. No, they're pretty much going to take anything because Deadpool does anything he wants.
And they're being very, traditional to the comic book standards. So in about 30 days, go see that. It's going to be great. And if you haven't seen The Revenant already, please go see that as well.
Absolutely.
I think that it will definitely be winning some Oscars.
And this has been episode 10 of the Other Things podcast. Remember, life is a contact sport. We'll see you later.